Hello and welcome to Smith Family Gaming. I'm Zane, your host, and tonight we're going to talk about my review on the Instant Colors by Scale 75. I'm going to bring the camera a little bit closer and we're going to take a look at some of the stuff I did and talk about about what my thoughts are on it and everything else. I also wanted to talk about some of the other things that I'm going to be doing on later videos. My cousin, she's really awesome gal, she was telling me, I really want to see you showcase your Labyrinth board game and you're painted, because you painted up the miniatures on it. And I said, well, you know, I don't, not, you know, at the time those miniatures looked really great when I first made them. I thought they were excellent, but now I know a lot more and I think that I could be doing them 100 times better. And she said, well, you know what, that would make a perfect video. You could tell how you would make those better. I'm like, huh, you're right. So we're going to do that here shortly. My wife and I also did a small tutorial on Cowboy Bebop Space Serenade. It's a deck building game. We kind of did a tutorial and a gameplay walkthrough kind of thing, and kind of what our thoughts of the game were and what we kind of would review it at. Also, I have we went on an adventure today, and I picked up some of these, which are miniature model magnets. And if you saw my previous video with Roland, we got some tanks for World of Tanks, and the tops kind of pop off. And I've been always told that you can just cut that right off and stick magnets in there, magnetize both sides, and then you will still have your swivel tank turret, but it ain't going to pop off and it ain't going to be constantly falling off. It's going to stick together when you want it stuck together. So we're going to try doing that, and you guys will be a part of that. We'll figure all that out. Another thing that's coming up here pretty soon, this week, I believe on Thursday, I have my antithesis from War Colors, their brand of contrast or instant colors paints, will be coming hopefully on Thursday, and hopefully I'll be able to go ahead and start doing some things with that, give a slight review and see what you guys think of that. And like I said, I might go ahead and take War Colors Gandalf, strip off the paint, and redo it with new colors using their primer, trying to see, you know, what I can get out of it also. Like I said in the previous video about that, is War Colors looks great. He's just a little bit more vibrant than scale color, or I mean instant color Gandalf looks. So, but that's some of the videos I got coming up. I also want to showcase a video of, which might be my very next one, because I really want to get it done. I'm working on a, I may have shown you on one of my very earlier videos. He's a Flame Berserker from Conquest, The Last Argument of Kings. He's a Dwagam Fire Berserker, and I think that he's really turned out very nicely. And then on my account, IMGUR account, it's really exploded on there and gotten most upticks that are upvotes that anything else I've posted on there has, and I can understand why. It looks very sharp, and so I kind of wanted to showcase that, showcase the finishing touches of getting that completed, and maybe doing some other effects that I'll talk about during that video. But I've been rambling for, looks like, about 4 minutes, so that's about way too long for an introduction to a video on a review. So I'm going to move the camera around. We'll take a closer look over here and get things working out. So I've been kind of postponing this video for a little while to get a better idea of how I wanted to do it and everything else. And I haven't used all the colors of the Instant Colors by Scale 75, but I think that I've used a vast majority of them, over half, and I think that I've used a lot of the colors that I've heard are trouble colors and that people had a hard time using and everything else. So I think I've got a good idea of what I like in it, what I don't like. Some of the things I hadn't gone over yet was the lighter colors and also more mainstream primers. I hadn't done either of those yet. So I finally got those videos done and up. So now I'm ready to go ahead and do the whole review of this set. One of the few things I want to talk about first is that I did try it with pre-painted miniatures. or pre-primed miniatures like these two, with various colors all over the place and everything else. And so that worked out just fine. Didn't really have any trouble. Well, let me take that back. I did have a little bit of trouble at getting on one miniature in one area, which I probably imagine they just didn't prime it very well to begin with to start with. So it was probably missing a little bit of primer there anyway, and so it didn't move. But everywhere else on that exact same model worked just fine. So, and with that same color in a different area. So it wasn't the paint itself. I think it was the primer on the model, because I didn't have any of those problems with any other tests that I did. So both the pre-prime miniatures turned out fine. I mean, obviously it's just totally random. We were testing those out to get good colors for Gandalf. We also did cheap primers, really cheap primers, and tested that out, and that worked also. And then we tried out Vallejo Primer, the Vallejo White surface primer, and it worked out just fine also. So whether or not you believe, because I've heard a lot of stuff on the Kickstarter comments and everything else, that, oh, you can't use not their primers because it won't work. Well, obviously that isn't true. It's worked on all of these, even their own primers, which in my case you can also do by hand with a paintbrush or by an airbrush. I'm going to do an airbrush because I've got an airbrush. If you don't need to, then just put, like any kind of primer that I've ever had to do, put on it with a brush, I had to do it twice. Me with a primer on a airbrush, it comes out a lot smoother, looks a lot nicer finish to me. It works the same way either way, but that's just my opinion. So another thing that we figured out is that you can go over darker colors with a lighter color. We did this with the Gandalf. We went ahead and we did a lighter color on his face, on the highlights of it, to get him out just a little bit brighter, and that turned out pretty nice. We also did it just on a couple of samples here and there on different things. Here we also added darkening to another one by adding some slightly darker colored green to this zombie here for his zombie skin, and it turned out pretty sharp also. So on my, those things I heard a lot of trouble about was that you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, and well, we can do most of those things. Another problem I heard about was that a lot of them were way too wet and they were water and they just went everywhere. And I kind of discussed this in one of my videos about having issues with it, with instant colors. And I think that a lot of people are having issues with it by just trying to gloop the paint on and just get a whole bunch on their paintbrush and just splat it on, and then, oh, it's going to look great. And that doesn't necessarily work. Let's zoom in a little bit closer here and take a better look at what we got going on here. I used some of these other colors, some of these lighter colors, because I heard that the lighter colors were just the hardest thing to get on anything. You couldn't get the phoenix egg to stick on anything and look nothing like anything. Well, I've got him here, and yeah, it's not real bright or real light color, but it is on there, and it's probably not a color that I would use for a skin color myself. It's probably not. It's a little too light, but like I said, it goes a great highlight for a skin color to highlight up to. Also, I don't think that it would be a bad color for maybe an elf skin color. Maybe a couple extra coats than one. We also, the other really light color I had was a Spectral Wolf that we did on all the spiders. And I didn't finish out quite a few of these spiders here, obviously. But, and it turned out fine. Some of the lighter color primers took more than one coat. Okay. Then we also did the Estes Yellow, I believe. which is the really pale yellow that we used on the skull of this skeleton here. I think that's the wrong one. Savage beige. Sorry. Savage beige. And yeah, it's really light, but you can definitely tell that there's color at it. You can even tell that there's color at it when it's way down here on the ground, a million miles away from looking right at the camera. You can tell that there's color on him. You can tell that there's color on this guy. So even though it's not real bright, there's still color on it, and it still does work. I think a lot of people are having problems by putting too much paint on, not wicking a little bit off, like I said with the paper towel. I normally wick a lot of paint off when I'm doing regular painting. So that's kind of a thing. If you think you've got too much paint on, maybe wick a little bit of paint off. That's a normal thing to do. I think that a lot of people are also having problems with it not showing up because they're using too dark of a primer. They're not getting the effects. Let me rephrase that. They're not getting the effects that they want from the paints, from the lighter color paints, because they're using too dark of a primer to begin with. If you go ahead and you've got all their primers or whatever, and you go with a darker gray, it's going to be a harder time to get that lighter color to show up than it would be onto a white, like we did with these two here. That's probably what's going to happen, because it's just going to be easier. Just like putting the gray, spectral gray, on this spider that was primed in gray was way easier and only took one coat compared to the 2 or 3 coats that the white and the yellow, off yellow color took. But their highlights on their butts are a lot brighter. This one is definitely a much more even. Yeah, there's some highlights to it. It did contrast where it needs to contrast, but it doesn't look quite as bright of a difference. But overall, to me, the paints, the real test was Gandalf. And Gandalf, to me, turned out excellent. I love the way he looks. I am almost tempted to go ahead and paint up all the rest of my Journeys in Middle-earth with the instant colors, because I just love the way he turned out. I might not, though, because I still got the one Gandalf left. And I want to use that last Gandalf to see how well I paint him up with my regular paints. And also we got to redo Warcolor's Gandalf and try to use all their paint line of that, Antithesis paint line, and their primers, and see if I can get a little bit different of effect. And we'll have a kind of, I'll make another video and you guys can judge what you think is the better of the two Gandalfs and leave it in your comments down below. So we will do that at a later date, obviously. But overall, I think this paint set is very good. I think that it's going to give you a really good looking effect in the end result. It's not going to be too flashy and too bright. It does take a little bit of thought in the begin with. Okay, well, should I be using a gray primer here, or do I want this part to be really light? Am I going to put a light color on here? Maybe I should use a light primer in this area. Okay, there's a little bit of a learning curve to it. There's a little bit of learning curve with just about every paint that you use, depending on what you use. Citadel, to me, is kind of one of the easier ones. That's what I learned on. But, after time, I found that my painting techniques and everything moved. And I think that actually using a much, in my opinion, crappier paint like Warcolor or Army Painter paints made me a better painter, because I had to try to get the best effects out of those paints because I spent money on it, and gosh darn it, I'm going to use them. And I feel like I got a much better feel on how to become a better painter by using paints that I didn't think were as good as some of the newer paints that I use now, which I pretty much use a lot of the Scale 75 because I like the way the effects that I get out of those paints, and it goes really nice with the way I paint. And I really do like the Warcolor paints also, the ones that I have used. In my opinion, Citadel paints are fine, and some Army Painter paints are fine also, but I just prefer those two paint lines myself than any others. So overall, it's a great paint set. I love everything about it. So far, it's been nothing but great. I'm going to probably paint up a lot more things. We are going to go, first off, I got to clean him up because he's resin, and I need to wash him. At least that's what I've been told. I don't really feel like wasting paint, wasting my time by not washing it and then priming it and then the paint all fall off. It'd be very irritating. But Braun here, we're going to, try to make them look like Scale 75 made them look. So I'm going to try to use all the paints that they used on Braun, plus, they didn't use all the instant colors. They used some of their artist range also. So we're going to try to use that, try to make him look, see if I can, not a very good painter, an okay painter, and make him look as good as they made him look with the instant colors, because I thought he looked excellent, and that's the biggest test that you can give to me on instant colors to prove that it works like they say it does. And so far, to me, I haven't seen anything to tell me any differently. Now, will I get it to look as good as theirs? Yeah, right. But I'm going to sure try. And I'm going to try to make them look real great. So I'm going to like them. I'm going to put them on a little plinth, and I'm going to put them up on my shelf with all my books and everything else. And he'll look great. You might ask yourself, have I read all those books? No. No, unfortunately, I haven't. I don't have a lot of time. I read every night. I read to my son every night, and then I read to myself every time I go to bed. I haven't read all the books, but I have read probably over half of them. And I'm slowly reading them all. If I can ever stop reading, going back and being like, oh man, I just watched The Lord of the Rings. I gotta read The Hobbit again. Oh man, If I quit doing that, I'd probably get through them. I don't read very fast as it is. That's totally off topic. We'll see whether or not I feel like adding that actually in or editing it out. Anyway, this paint set, I'm interested to use the rest of the paints. And to me, I don't see any reason why I got to use all of them before I make this decision, because I don't believe that one of these paints is just going to be like, that one just doesn't work. It's just horrible. I just don't believe that that's going to happen. If it does, I'll let you guys know. But I don't believe that's going to ever happen, because it seems pretty unlikely. The acrylic medium that came with it does help to thin it out a little bit and get a little bit of a different effect. So that's a nice add-on that I got with it. So everything is great. I really like it. I'm going to do a lot more experiments, like I said, doing different things and everything else. So in me, I give it a 9 out of 10. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. You're probably not going to get one coat off of every single color. And I don't believe they may have said that. I don't know, on the Kickstarter. But after watching the videos and everything else, doing my research on the whole thing, I realized before I even got it that wasn't the case. That in some things you're probably going to want to use 2 coats. It just depends on what you like. If you want really light tones and everything else, then put 1 coat on. And if it turns out fine the way you like it, then that's the way you like it. What you like is what matters most anyway. So I don't believe that I was lied to about that. I like everything about it. So like I said, I'll give it a 9 out of 10, and we'll go from there. I'm going to go ahead and sign off here in a minute, and we'll catch you next time. But before we go, I want to you guys to take a look at this guy, and I will be doing a video on finishing up all the metal pieces and lighting, highlighting them up in a near, hopefully pretty soon video, because I really want to get them done. And I think he has really turned out very nicely. So we're going to go ahead and do that probably as one of my either very next videos or a very soon video, because I really like him. I think that a lot of people that have seen him on IMGUR have really liked him too. And considering it was my first time trying out to paint out fire, I think he turned out very good. The hair and the little flame on his banner there looks very well. So like I said before, I'll say it again. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.